Hi everybody, it's Claire back with another art journal video, and in this one I am getting all neon-y. Is that a word? I don't know. Neon-y, I quite like it. Anyway, playing with some of Dina's neon paints, and I'm just playing in the small craft journal. That won't be any surprise to you. It is my favourite journal to work in. I think partly it's because of the size as well. It's not big and overwhelming. It's just a really nice size to play in. So this is often my journal of choice. I think even though this journal's not been out as long as some of the other ones, I've already got more completed craft journals than any other. So yeah, here I am just using one of Dina's coaster stencils and using some white paint straight onto the page. There's no gesso on the page, clear gesso or anything like that. And I'm just getting a bit of stenciling down to make a start on my background. And then I'm going to say that word that I know some of you like. I am just smooshing some white paint around on the page. I've got some left on my mat, as you can see, and there's still some in the blending tool. So rather than waste it, because quite often I take the sponges off the blending tools and I throw them into my paint water, you know, rather than wasting it, I'm just smooshing it around on my page, and it just softens the page a little bit as well. So I'm using another coaster stencil, and now you can see I'm going to hold that stencil in place and I'm going in with the neon paints. So the thing with these paints is they're quite translucent. The more you layer them, the more opaque you will get them to be, but they will never be completely opaque unless I think you went in with lots and lots and lots of layers. But you can make them quite opaque, so you just have to be patient and layer. So I'm holding the stencil really still and I'm going to create like a circular pattern with the neon paints, and I'm kind of overlapping them a little bit, but I'm not worrying too much about them blending nicely. I'm just letting happen what happens, really. I'm not sure if that makes sense, but I kind of hope you know what I mean. Like, I'm not overthinking the blend of the colours. But I have got the pink blending tool there, and I'll just sort of go over the join a little bit, but not over worrying about it. So I've used the neon pink, the neon orange and the neon yellow. As you know, they've all got super fancy names. I'll have to get them down because I can't remember. I can only remember the pink is called Stoked. I don't recall what this one is. So Gnarly is the yellow and Radical is the orange. So I'm just layering these paints round in that circular shape. So I'm kind of using the shape of the stencil to guide me here, really, playing with what's already there. And that is giving me the shape of this centre of stenciling in my page. So this is almost like creating a sort of framed area where all my interesting bits are going to happen on my page. So after giving it a quick dry, I've just relined my stencil back up, and I'm going back in again with the Gnarly, that's the bright yellow, the neon yellow, just to add it a bit more depth to that colour. It's not quite opaque enough because I had maybe not quite got enough paint on my sponge, but sometimes with these it is easier to add a layer, dry it and go back in again. So this was the easiest way to do that. So those colours are really lovely and bright, and here I'm just using a Posca pen and I'm just roughly outlining that circle, so you can see that kind of draws the attention to that, pushes that into the foreground a little bit more. And of course I'm using up some of the pink that's left on my mat. There's a little bit left on that blending tool, so I'm just adding that to the page just to finish it off. Using the blending tool, it does create quite a nice soft effect. It's a lovely way to use up that sort of leftover paint. And then I am going to glue down some bits of Dina's collage paper. I think this is it Flying Things this set is from. It's funny that as I'm saying about flying things, I've just seen some flying ants in the garden, which keep appearing in my art room, which is really not not really what you want. So yes, I'm just gluing some of that onto my page, and that breaks up that background as well. And as you know, I love to make all these lovely layers in my journal pages, so this is a great way to do it. You don't always have to start off with the collage paper. Sometimes you can stick it on top and it can just have that effect of breaking up your background a little bit. So next I'm going to use one of Dina's chipboard shapes from one of the little packs. I'm pretty sure this pack's called Flying Things as well, but I might be making that up. Anyway, it's got lots of little birds and butterflies and bees in it, and I'm going to use one of them as a focal point on my page. It kind of makes this page marry up quite nicely with the page that you can see on the right hand side. And this was a page that I did around about the time that Dina released her new neon paints, and so I had created these pages for Ranger for the release, and then I just kind of carried on playing, got really inspired with the neon colours, so that's where this whole thing came from. So then I'm using my dotty stamp to just add some dots. It just kind of breaks up those areas where the collage paper joins the edges of the page. Just adding some of that on there too. And I do just love how that looks as well. It works. It would work just as well if you did it in a colour as well as it would in black. But I think because the collage paper has got that black pattern on it, it works quite well with that too. And then I'm going in with the Mantras stencil from Dina and just adding a little bit of stenciling. I think that's mineral paint that I've got there. You can't really see this particularly well on camera, but on the actual journal page it did show up quite nicely. Worked quite well on the background, just to sort of calm things down a little bit. Yes, it's quite difficult for you to see there, isn't it? But it worked nicely. So next I'm using a Tombow marker. I've got a set of 3 that are in different shades of grey. I think this one might be N65, and I'm just adding a little bit of a shadow to one side of that circle, and kind of you can smudge these quite nicely with your finger when they're wet. And then you can see the bird's just going to sit on there. So although the bird is white already, I do add a little bit more white paint on top just to kind of crisp that whiteness up a little bit more. And I do use a blending tool to just move that paint around nicely on the chipboard shape. Okay, so now I'm going to attach the bird onto my page. Look away now if you don't like staples in your journals. Sometimes it's just a nice quick way to do it. Dina's ultra thick gel medium is also really great for sticking chipboard shapes in, but for me sometimes it's just about the speed and making sure it's not going to pop off. So using the stapler is a really good way to do it. And then I am just colouring over those staples just to push them away, because I don't really want to see them on that white bird, and just adding some white paint over the top of them just disappears them a little bit. So now I'm just going to add some splatters onto my page as well. So that helps to marry up the white of the bird, and it brings that white forward on the page a little bit as well. Excuse me, and adds that cohesiveness to the page. So then I'm using a text stamp, which I'm pretty sure is one of Dina's. I don't know, I'm afraid, which set of stamps it's come from, but it says "Take a Chance," and I'm just stamping that in a few places on my page. just to add some text back on to my page. And sticking with an odd number of stampings of the words "take a chance." So now I'm just using a bit of that stoked paint, and I'm just adding some with my finger. I'm just adding a few areas, and it just adds a little bit of brightness onto the page as well. Kind of brightens some areas up. And then to finish off, I am adding a little sketchy outline to the white chipboard bird that's on my page. And that's pretty much where this journal page finished. So as you can see, you can do a journal page just completely using the neon paints, and I guess I've also used white as well, a bit of mineral, but mostly the neons are the star of the show. And as you can see, the more you layer them, the more opaque they get. So they are lots and lots of fun to play with. So I hope you've enjoyed watching me create this neon, fun, bright, colourful page. It's fun to see how you can just use these colours on their own. I hope you found some inspiration here. Thanks for watching, and I do hope to see you again soon.